everyone, Otilia Anton from Orange, leading the Telco API program within the group.
Mark Cornall from the GSMA, Technical Director. So pulling everyone who's got 90% or 95% alignment and getting the last 5%, which is the one that really kills us every single time. So that's me.
I'm David Delval. I'm the Global Director for Open Gateway at Telefonica. I'm responsible for the global coordination of the program in our company.
My name is Noel, working for Deutsche Telekom and responsible for the product there.
So I will ask my first question to David here. So the GSMA Open Gateway initiative is promising, but like for just a reminder, can you remind us why the GSMA Open Gateway initiative, like why it has been created?
Yeah, so Open Gateway is a revolution for the telecommunications industry in the sense that we are trying to make that our networks become a digital platform that are easy to use, easy to manipulate, easy to interact from the applications. And it's also revolutionary because it involves the coordination of so many different companies across so many different geographies, all bound by the common interest of making more revenues and also the common standard, which is Camara, that enables us to expose the same API so that they work the same for all developers all over the world.
So, and about developers, like, what's really the problem you're trying to solve for developers with the Open Gateway?
Yeah, it's a problem that maybe they didn't know they had, which is that the networks are closed, that you cannot use from your application all the functionality that the networks have to function. So in order to terminate a phone call, we need to know the identity of the user, we need to know where the user is, we need to send some data to that particular mobile device. We have all that capability inside our networks, and that is not available for developers today. The minute we open those capabilities through APIs, developers can start doing lots of things that they cannot have imagined before. This applies also to billing, applies to location, applies to all kinds of functionalities that the network has hidden from the overall developer community. And now, since we're becoming a platform, they will be open up and everybody will be able to use it.
So this morning we've heard Open Gateway, we've heard also a term Camara, right? So maybe Noel, for this one, like, can you tell us, like, again, why the Open Gateway, but then why Camara on top of it, and actually why actually it's needed to improve developer experience?
So yeah, Camara is more or less the technical base for Open Gateway. So there is the standardization really for the APIs, for the API calls, for everything the developer in the end is addressed with, so documentation and so it's really important to have like a standard for the industry so that aggregators and Open Gateway can work with one API definition so that everybody is more or less talking about the same and not somebody is mentioning quality on demand and quality on demand is completely doing something different than in the other network. So it's more or less like a standard for northbound APIs, so all APIs going to developers. So right now in telco industry we have a lot of different standards. So we talked about MEF, we talked about TM Forum, 3GPP, and now we have one standard really for northbound APIs, and this is like what Camara is doing, and it's an open source alliance, so on a Linux foundation, so everybody can work on this, not even telcos, so even like every developer, every interested purpose, just go to GitHub and you can see everything.
So, Simon Sinek has this great why, how, and what. Like the why is important, start with the why, right? So we started with why, but now about what it is. So maybe I'll ask Mark, like, can you explain, like, not why Open Gateway, but what it is concretely, what it is concretely, and how both are complementary, Open Gateway and Camara, how they're complementary with each other.
Okay, so two parts of a coin, maybe two parts on a side as well. So from one side, we've got standard APIs. We've got standard ways of describing, nice developer-focused ways of doing it. We don't want to do it complicated telco ways of doing it. Doesn't work, horrible, the nasty things. Ugh. So we need to do a translation between a nice developer-focused northbound and the complicated piece on the southbound, and we'll take care of that. That's fine. But then what you also need is the commitment to deploy it. And I'll update the two old slides. 39 groups, 228 networks, 64% global coverage of number of connections. which is the first time I think we've got anything like that within 2 years of launch, which is just awesome. So along that, so you've got commitment to deploy, you've got common APIs, and then around that as well, you also put in the federations and the commercial and the business wrapper, and you put it all together, and you get a coin. And that's really what it ends up being that, and you need it all together to get that one thing you can use.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. So we talk about standard bodies, technical code, but actually we do that for use cases, right? We do that for improving people's life, businesses, use cases. And Otilia, this morning in your talk, you had some use cases you wanted to present, so maybe I can ask you the question. Actually, we have 2 microphones, so maybe, that's fine. But yeah, what it has been made and for whom? Like, who will be the end beneficiary of it?
So first of all, Open Gateway is open. And the main beneficiary should be the application developers, should be the new industries. It's the timing that is important. So Mark mentioned it. It is a very rare occasion in which most of the ecosystem puts effort into this. And it's the timing for the transformation we're living on the connectivity side with the full cloudification, intelligence of the networks, and also the arrival of 5GSA. So it's this momentum. In terms of use cases, first of all, some of the existing ones we mentioned this morning around privacy, anti-fraud, payment, these are assets that telcos already have. What Open Gateway brings is the simplicity, the access. In addition to that, as we are transforming fully the way connectivity is provided, this also opens the door to adaptable, personalized connectivity, such as the one from quality on demand or device location. So from Orange side, we've seen interest on smart agriculture in some scenarios, smart manufacturing, but also more B2C use cases, such as gaming and cultural events, entertainment. There is a lot to do in that space. At the same time, we are at the beginning, so we mentioned it this morning, it's a living picture, and it depends on the actual interest and the type of partnerships we can build together to make this move forward. What we tried in the past and failed is that we tried it maybe alone or a number of limited partners. This time, it's really happening at the same time for most of us, and with the same ambition to try to, at the same time, monetize these capabilities and also support new use cases.
So yeah, and so now we know for what the use cases want the end users. And I love, it was a conference in 2012, someone made the comparison about why the developers are the distribution channel of all of this. He made a comparison, with supermarkets, like we have factories who produce goods, delivered by trucks or planes or boats into supermarkets to be delivered to the end user. He said, yes, but developers are these trucks, So great companies, telcos, whatever, delivers APIs. Developers go to look for the API, discover them, consume them, and build application supermarkets, like app stores, to deliver to the end user. So the developer is let's say the channel of discovering your APIs. But then a question mostly for Stan from Vonage. You already integrate telco APIs, but what will be the added value, or what will be the relation with developers into discovering, again, more APIs, more telco APIs?
Yeah, so I think there is, for developers, there is first on the API side, there is not just one single API. So it's about the multi-channel piece. So it's about getting simplicity on the way they can, brands and ultimately developers for the brands are helping them to reach the customers where they are pretty much. So it's about using the power and leveraging the power of camera and injecting, within the network API, the capacity to bring multi-layer capacity for the multi-channeling on how to reach the customers. If you think about it nowadays customers, they don't want to be perceived as following one track. They want to be reached out by the brand. They want to be able to reach out by the brands by what they like, but the type of channel that they expect to be reaching out to. So it could be social, could be text, could be voice, video, could it be also gaming, as we were mentioning it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So it's allowing developers through the network APIs, through the camera APIs, to actually get to that in a simple way with this new standard.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so we had the aggregator point of view, and now the hyperscaler point of view from Microsoft. Like, what Microsoft is able to change a lot of industries by its ability to distribute, but especially in the telco space, how Microsoft will be able to distribute these APIs.
Well, yes, there are two audiences, right? One is the telco players, the other one is the developers. The developers, in this case, they are the customers, and we have a huge ecosystem of developers that are already using our services. So in that sense, on the developer side, well, it's providing them with a product that has more value, right? A developer developing in Azure now is going to be able to access all of these APIs easily, in an easy way. Now we have also you were also talking about the telco community. In this case, the telco community is our partners, but they are not only any type of partners, they are like critical partners. Because the whole idea of what we are building, which is unifying also and making it from one interface, you can go and access all of these APIs, is if the telcos don't integrate, I mean, then the unification doesn't even exist, right? So in reality, we have the two audiences, and we have to be very careful with both. One, the developers being the customers that we are serving, but the telcos being key critical partners.
So what's the strategy or the link between Microsoft, maybe cloud strategy and telco strategy? Is there a specific link?
Well, this product, Azure Programmable Connectivity, APC, is being developed within a group called Azure for Operators, right? Azure for Operators, the bigger objective of that team is to help telcos to build their networks on the cloud. So this component, APC, Azure Programmable Connectivity, is one important platform within the bigger platform where we are helping them monetize their networks. So on one hand, we are helping them to digitize their networks, to really build them on the cloud. And but once you do that, what do you do when everything is in the cloud? And in theory, everything is more agile and you can do more stuff, right? One of that is exactly, why don't you expose it in an easy way? So I would say bigger product of Azure for Operators is the platform and the network function so that they can build their networks on the cloud. And important is this APC component that helps them monetize what they have built.
So we have the standards, we have the infrastructure, we have the code, we have the APIs, we have the aggregators, we have the scaling capabilities and distribution. Now about the use cases, right? Now about the use cases, telcos have been an infrastructure of enablement for a long time on telecommunication, but maybe from the telco side, Noel or Otilia or David, I'll let you answer each one of you. But like, what would be, if you can pick one most relevant use case for you, just as an example, what could that be, that use case?
So right now, one of the, I guess, most important use cases is fraud prevention. So take care of, that the person who is doing a transaction or something in a banking is really the person behind it and nobody else. So yes, it's getting more and more fraud attacks are there. So I guess a lot of you getting SMS from spam SMS or fake calls and all of this. So it's to prevent this, I guess telcos can help a lot.
And they are better into fake SMS, right?
Exactly. So with this artificial intelligence, I guess there's coming a lot of more with getting information out of Facebook, Instagram, and then writing exact the same the perfect message for the
Fraud prevention. Yeah, thank you, David.
Yeah, another one that is a bit more sexy is drone. Flying drones with more security. There's a lot of regulation. The drones cannot go happily around in the cities because regulators are concerned about just falling into people's heads. So the drone needs two things. One is to know the density of population below it, and the second thing is to know the quality of the network. And with those two parameters, the drone can choose a route that maybe is not a straight line, but avoids people and goes always through a very good network connection. So for that, you need two APIs. One that gives you density of population, we know that. And the other one is quality of the network pointing to the sky. And we know that as well. So that's another of the many, many examples that you can think when you expose the capabilities of the network.
I live at the 6th floor, so I can't wait drone delivery. So yeah, maybe thanks to that it will happen. Thank you, and yeah, maybe Ricardo or Otilia. Sorry, the telco side first.
I mentioned it before a bit, but in addition to these two, I would say also use cases around home ecosystem. Most of us now work also remotely or in a hybrid mode, so how we can make sure we have a stable connection that's adapted for professional services, and at the same time mobility scenarios. So in addition to what was mentioned, also how do we ensure and how can we support from the network operator side that the experience is flawless when we change from our Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi to cellular, and in more advanced scenarios from private networks to public networks. So there are lots to do in that area.
So maybe for the use case you presented or the one coming, can you tell us a little bit, I don't know, maybe a glimpse into the future about what will be the API available? What telco will open over time, at least what's planned and what you can talk about?
What I can talk about is the work that has been done by Orange around mobile ID and fraud prevention. It's not a new area for us, and we are very optimistic about this vertical. Also, as we invested deeply also on cyber defense capabilities, we see that with more complex and more accessible information, the number of frauds are increasing. So for sure, for one of our first steps in the Camera initiative is to leverage this know-how and this momentum in making this more widely available. But in addition, I would say at the same time on network, I would say evolution, we are looking on how to emphasize more use cases around device location and quality on demand. For instance, at Orange, we have worked a lot on products like Fluvision, which allows us to raise statistical data from our networks and follow crowds, for instance. We use that in support of the COVID scenario, but it can have lots of applications. So for us, that's the kind of use case we want to enhance and emphasize and to benefit from this opportunity of defragmentation.
Maybe David, do you have another example that you can talk about?
Yeah, well, there's one I like particularly. It's a bit specific, but I like the API of network information to provide information about the network to the applications. So today, streaming applications, what they do is they send the highest quality video possible until they detect that they have saturated the network. And when that happens, we see that in our networks and we say, oh, we have to build bigger networks. So we build bigger networks, we spend a lot of money, and they do just increase the quality until it saturates the networks. And we're in this race all the time, and the user is all the time seeing that the networks get saturated, and at some point the quality decreases, and that's not very good for the users. So with network information, you can just know that you're saturating the network without doing it. And therefore, from the application, you can limit the quality of the video before it is too late. And those things will really improve the health of the network and in general the quality that the user perceives, which is what really matters.
And you, Noel, do you have a public secret API that you can share? But which is public, right?
Well, it's public, yes. So maybe let's say a little bit about availability. So I guess Orange launched 2 weeks ago something that the developers can come to and test bed. Telefonica and GSMA make public that in Wirzius is currently something available now. We from Deutsche Telekom launched 2-3 months that we have something in Germany. Ricardo, I guess you will say something to Microsoft after this. So the APIs are there, so everybody can come to us and work with them and see them. So it's not like we're talking not about like in 5 years, so it's something what is coming slowly up. There will come more and more and more in the next year. And so it's like the ball is rolling a little bit faster than 1 year ago. Yeah.
So maybe to Stan and Ricardo, like as you will be distributing these APIs, right? What will be the verticals that you think will be the most impacted? Like, I don't know, banking or IoT or Industry 4.0 or all of them?
Well, they are similar to the ones that were just mentioned. I think the one that we have seen with the most traction right now is anti-fraud. So obviously going into financial services, maybe that's the typical place that can use anti-fraud, but in reality anti-fraud can be used by many different verticals. So rather than thinking actually in verticals, we are actually thinking by use case right now. So I would say anti-fraud is the biggest one. The second one is going to be the improvement of the connectivity, especially for reducing latency for applications that are latency sensitive. And that's I would believe those are the main use cases right now.
And Stan, on the Vonage point of view?
Yeah, no, definitely right. I think we can name all the different verticals. I mean, everyone will get there, but like the healthcare, everyone we are using extended reality, are huge contender for that. There's one, we're talking about fun. I think if you think about the gaming industry, with everything which is happening. I mean, in France now we are building Arena to support the e-sport, which is becoming very big. All those gamers are investing a lot in their own infrastructures, on their own computer type of things. So the networks need to deliver upon that. So could it be when they are on mobile, around 5G type of infrastructures, or could it be when they're home? And if you think about it, when operators will be able to expose, or are able not to expose, the quality of service on demand APIs type of things to developers, to enable, those gamers having like high quality on the video side, they need the less latency possible. That's very key, and that's where this type of application will be enabled.
So Arena is just a stadium around at La Défense, right? So you say 12,000 e-gamers with powerful computers. They will ask a lot of bandwidth, and we need to provide them.
Yeah, and we need to David's point, it's to be able to manage that ahead. And to manage that, seamlessly, not to build like stupid architectures on the back end of it.
Yeah, thank you. So I will go back to Mark, because when we hear the presentation this morning, when we hear you, it seems like seamless. I'm sure it has been hard work behind the scene, right? When it seems like a flow, it begins a lot of work have been done. So what's the GSMA point of view about what's going right now? And what would be successful criteria if we do the same panel in 1 year? Like, what you will consider success?
Have you seen all those big wave things in Hawaii when you say a little surfer is a huge wave behind them?
Yeah.
This is how we feel. I think this is how the industry feels at the moment. That's how I feel. In terms of what it's going to look like in a year, if we manage to get this wave and we catch this wave, then we're going to see a number of countries, lots of countries where we've got the same API being shown in those countries. We'll see the aggregators coming in, and you'll be able to do consumer use cases, not just business use cases within countries, because they've got the same API. We'll start to see the international APIs, and we'll start to see federation as well. So we'll start to see the telcos federating, and it's going to depend on the market, and there's been lots of different ways to market. So that's where we're going to be in terms of coverage, and we'll see those deployments starting at MWC 24, so end of February next year. First services, well, we've got the first services already, but more services around for that, and then that will carry on through. And then we're also going to see more standardization around in the aggregator market and the routes to market. So just a gradual build. I think that's what we're going to see in a year.
Yeah, at least, we will be able to see it live, see things change in logistics, in banking, in whatever. So you said we are in a conference about APIs, and we have telcos here, and hyperscalers, aggregators. But yeah, in 2 months actually, there's Mobile World Congress, right? Which is the huge event, at least where things. What are you able to share with us today? But I don't know, any news or whatever. And if you can't do anything right now, can you tell us like what will be happening at Mobile World Congress? So do you have any news today? It's for all of you, right?
So today, Noel's already spoken about some of the launches which have happened.
Nice.
There are other ones around the world. So Indonesia, Sri Lanka have also gone live. There are other networks working as well in other countries. We've got 14 countries working. And you're going to see a lot of that being demoed in MWC. And I can't say what and how, but it will be one of the key elements of MWC will be the open gateway and the way that's progressing through MWC. And we're going to see it across, certainly through the work that GSMA is doing, the MWCs next year. You're going to see that as a constant global thread through next year. It's that important to industry to open it up and to give those tools to developers to develop the great services that you want to do and to make the most out of the networks.
So and even to other panelists, not revealing what will be announced at MWC, but what can you tell us about next steps on each of your side? I don't know if you can take the mic. Maybe Noel, yeah?
Okay, so from our side, it's really to bring more APIs out there. So right now we're talking more or less about forward APIs, check device, and location and quality on demand. But if you take a look at Camara, there's a lot more APIs. Even in the backlogs there's a lot of more. And I'm really looking forward for next year to push a lot more APIs into the market. So we're starting now, and then hopefully it's coming more and more and more.
It's coming.
A couple of weeks ago, we launched commercially in Brazil with Infobip as the aggregator and TIM, Telekom Italia, and Claro, and Vivo, which is our brand, as the telecommunication operators. So we already have, the full commercial works in Brazil, which, as I said this morning, is a country where we have 100 million customers, and overall, I think there are 240 million people there, so it's a big open gateway and Camara testbed. And for Mobile World Congress, you expect more regions and more aggregators and more countries to be launched. That's as far as I can read.
Yeah, thank you for trying, right?
I'm going to add one more.
Okay.
So there is going to be a DevCon at MWC, so we're trying to get developers in. And what we'd like to see is a lot more of that developer communication and input into Camara. And I think if we can do that as well, then that's another success measure, which is external to us.
Otilia?
And to add to that, so what we expose today in beta program, of course, part of that we're working to make it ready for commercial. At the same time, that beta versions are there to experiment with. So coming back also to the DevCon, I would say the acceleration on the telco availability also depends on feedback from developers. That's why we are here today, because we want to make this relevant for you. We want to make this useful. So these are iterations and versions. So our speed or agility together also depends on how we can work in the months ahead of us to refocus it when needed, or to, as Noel mentioned, the proposals are there in the Camara backlog. Would welcome more contributions to that as well to work on this prioritization.
Ricardo?
For us, at Mobile World Congress and next year, we're going to be launching our product, Azure Programmable Connectivity, as an Azure service. Because the early version of the product that we had been working with was not an Azure service as such, was working in Azure, but not as an Azure service. So we are going to be launched it as an Azure service with a full Azure experience.
Yes, nice. And Noel? Noel, sorry, Stan?
Stan. So we're going to be definitely at the Mobile World Congress, big presence between Ericsson and Vonage. We will be, exposing everything we're doing on the network API side, communication API side also, alone, but also with our partners. Deutsche Telekom will be also proposing and exposing what we're doing around the Magenta APIs and some with other CSPs as well. So we welcome any developers and businesses to come and stop and see more in detail what is available and what's available for them tomorrow.
Thank you. Now we have time for a question from the audience. You know, it's really rare to have the whole value chain of GSMA Open Gateway, telco, standard bodies, aggregators, and hyperscalers. So yeah, if you have any questions, I will be glad to be the network and transmit it to them. Who has a question? Yep.
A question to Mark, probably. We just heard in the previous presentation ClearX and what they're trying to do. They're trying to become an aggregator. Basically a Twilio 2.0, whatever. Is that something that the GSMA should be striving to become, or is that outside of of the GSMA area?
Now there's a question. There is a role needed. So we think there is a role needed because we're going to have a situation where you've got hundreds of networks, they're all opening up gateways, they're all operating APIs, but where do I go to get the global view? And that global view and that global catalog probably is something that GSMA is looking at as offering, to say, if you want these APIs, this is where they're deployed. And then we share that back to our networks and our operators, and we direct people back to them so that they have that view. I don't think at the moment we get involved at that top level. There is because a lot of these federations end up being bilateral. We've got a lot of smaller operators which are going to need some help. They haven't got the experience that the big guys here have got, and they're going to need some help. So there is room for players in that market to try to give the expertise on how to do a gateway, how to expose it, how to do federation, how to do smart contracts, back it up with blockchain or whatever the underlying technology is, do the settlement and all that sort of work. And there's a lot of smaller operators who can't do it, but they're going to need help. So there will be that marketplace is there, and it might be something that GSMA does.
Yeah, we have time for another question from the audience. Personally, I have a question about the developers, because they will be the one actually developing against the API, consuming the APIs, but behind the developer, there is also the product manager or the business owner, right, who tell the developers. So maybe a question for, actually, I don't know if it's for telcos or for distribution channel, but how the marketing will be split between reaching developers to access the API, but marketing also the use case that are enabled by these APIs, right? Because the developer don't have always the use case in mind, but he will be the one deciding which APIs are the best to use.
So maybe I can say something to more or less like addressing companies, not developers. So maybe then one of the aggregators can say something about addressing like the developers directly. So if we taking a look at telco industry, they have a lot of salespeople in B2B areas, and what we try to do is now to go with our B2B people to the companies we're having, where key accounts sitting, and showing them use cases from our side where APIs can play a role in their applications. So we take a look at companies, seeing, okay, maybe they have like an, I don't know, payment app or something like that. We're saying, take a look here, you can use this API and this API from our side. So to go there and doing a little bit business development with them together. So it's not like, just writing them an email and saying, here are APIs, because if you're writing a key account with another key account, none of them knowing what an API is. So you really need to find the right people in the businesses to talk with them. And then it's getting slowly down to the developers and the businesses. And I'm guessing to address the open developer market, I guess Ricardo or Stan are.
I would say that there is a lot of evangelization that still needs to happen. And for example, when we talk to developers, especially I would say when we started talking to them a year and a half ago, and still happens a lot, some of the developers, they are already experimenting. They've been experimenting with network APIs, and they actually need them, and they know how to use them for their applications. Some others, they are like, what? Network API? What is that? So there's a lot of evangelization that has to happen. So what we've been doing is we've been identifying some use cases that we can use to promote, right? But I think we are just scratching the surface. The reality is that there is a lot of the chicken and egg problem, where many developers, they haven't come up with the use cases for these APIs because they didn't exist, right? And now that they exist, so there's a little bit of that. So whatever we are showing is just scratching the surface. And I guess the real use cases are going to come from the developers who are the real innovators in this.
Yeah, I think it's, developers who can access network API are not that different from those who access, in our case, communication APIs or such. You have, I think there's different business model. To Noel's points, there's one you will address from the company point of view, so it will be more like effectively business, building the use cases, going top down to the company, and having the developers executing what would be the decision on the company side, pretty much, and taking the one tool that you would have been choosing. And the other one, which is more on the self-service side. And self-service side, obviously, is you need to ensure that you have the right documentation. You need to have the right potential use case already being built, pre-built. Could it be on the GitHub, or could it be in your own whatever platform, for them to be able to source and to start not from scratch, but to start with something, start thinking about something, and start emulating them about new use cases potentially. And that's very important. That's why there's DevRel community. That's why we need to keep on developing this community. We have few millions of developers on the platform nowadays, and that's what we intend to do on the network as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So I have one question about if we go back to developers about the use case, can one of the telco operators here tell us actually how the network is programmable? What we can really do with it? Like, do we know how precise is the location, or how can we really know the precision of the network on a specific area? Is whatever, by the meter, by the 10 meter? Like, if we had to inspire developers about what's possible, can someone of you tell us, like, actually how telco are really good at monitoring the network?
I can try to start on this one. So first of all, we are going towards network as a service. That means making it really accessible. In terms of features, David mentioned the opportunity to avoid congestion, to optimize the usage of the network, make a better use of it. And of course, the more our generations of connectivity evolve, the more analytics we have, the more opportunities we have. In terms of precision, it's this real-time, ultra-low latency that we are reaching for, and at the same time, reach. So it will give us also some more reliability, because some of these features today, even on the connectivity side, are completely available over the year. Sometimes the application itself tries to measure, but it doesn't have the full picture, while we have the full picture of the network. So trying to bridge these two worlds together and taking the opportunity to leverage the transformation of the connectivity that is happening at the moment.
Yeah, I joined the telco business several years ago, and I was coming from software development. And when I learned from inside what the telcos know about the network, I was amazed, because we know everything. We know every packet that is moving around. Therefore, we know why the latency is different. We know why the bandwidth can be different. All the congestion, everything that happens is closely monitored, and there is always a reason for that. It's not magic. It's not like a black box. It's actually technology, and technology you can control bit by bit. So, answering your question, how do we do this? Well, because we have all that information, and what we're trying to do is to surface that information now, so that everybody can use it in a controlled way and in a privacy-preserving way.
Yeah, because for developers, you need to be inspired by what's possible, than to imagine use case, but I don't know, location or precision analytics. So this is why I was asking that question. But maybe for Mark, so what will be the role of the GSMA in all of this? Like standardizing, govern, being sure every country, are in it and respect their engagement and their recommendations?
I think it's bringing everyone together. That's the role of the GSMA, and that's what it has been so far. There is going to be a certification role. So we're going to make sure that the Camara APIs are put in place and everyone knows that that's the one that's available and it's always the same one. And it gets down to the presentation earlier on, which was the universal credentials type of idea, where you say, well, I've got one set of credentials, I can go anywhere, wherever I want. So, and the GSMA will drive that standardization through the market. I think that's the role of GSMA longer term, is bring everyone as an industry together and standardize that.
And maybe, do we have any more question from the audience? No, you're moving glasses. I thought it was a question. Yeah, you have? Yeah.
I imagine that most of the data is anonymized one, or do you plan to manage also some consent in order to provide more data linked to privacy?
Yeah, this Open Gateway program and Camara is privacy by design. So we've thought about privacy very, very deeply. We all live in Europe under the GDPR, and it's been like 5-6 years since it was approved, that law. So we are not new to the law, so we know very well what it entitles. And we have built the Camara standards so that any personal information that is shared through the APIs has the proper legal basis. Sometimes it's consent, but sometimes it's just contract execution. It depends, right? Depends on the API. And for every API that we standardize in Camara, there are a bunch of lawyers looking at what are the privacy implications. So we are proud that this API framework is, privacy first, because otherwise we would be not following the compromise that we have with our customers, which is to protect their privacy.
Actually, it's really interesting. I'm building a GDPR tool for developers, so I get what it is to be hard. But it seems because privacy by design it will be in these APIs and in the network, like it will enable a lot of developers who have issues to care a lot about how hard it is to implement consent management, to understand legal basis. They will be inside the network. They will be inside the APIs, right? So it seems you're leveling the playing field for more, let's say, privacy or more regulation inside so people can trust telcos more, right? This is at least what I felt when I saw that. I say, oh, okay, they will have one thing less to manage, right? If we have one last word from each of you, one last word, not world, what word from each of you, and we'll end the panel. Maybe we can start by you, Stan, if that's okay. And we will go by to Noel.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, but you're the first, so after they will have to find something else.
Something else, yeah, true.
That's actually the pressure is on Noel.
That's for true. No, I mean, what I could say is it's, as Noel said, it's a reality already. It's not a perspective. And we invite you guys to come to MWC and see it. And, to contact any one of us also ahead of it. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
I guess my last comment would be just to encourage developers to play with these APIs. We are in early stages. Like Noel said, I mean, there are only a few of the APIs available right now. But if you start playing with them, many more are going to come. So I guess right now is the moment to play with them and start talking to the network with your applications.
Final word, maybe on collaboration. You see us together today here, and that's because we believe in this initiative and we're working to make this happen together as well as with other partners. Somebody from the audience asked about what channel. So we believe that at this moment what matters most is the adoption, the awareness and the improvement of this proposal and the iteration around it. So we welcome any type of feedback on how to work together on this, how to improve it, and how to make it relevant.
Thank you.
I've probably got two. Firstly, demand from your operators, from the telco. come and join and demand from us what you want. And the other one is to have some patience, because everyone else has said, we're just starting on this journey as well. So have patience with us, but we will move at speed.
Yeah, and at the same time, take advantage of the opportunity. If you think about 15 years ago, mobile phones were not programmable. It was very hard to do an application in a Nokia phone, remember? And then the smartphones came along, and the hardware was a lot more powerful, and it was very easy to program. So that's exactly what's happening now with networks. Networks are not programmable, and they are becoming programmable. And what happened 15 years ago, that the developers that first got it developed the first applications and were first to market, taking advantage of the smartphone capabilities. So now it's exactly the same. Developers that will first get it will start developing applications for programmable networks, and their applications will have a competitive edge.
So smartphone with smart networks, that will be something. So let's see.
So then my last word is exchange with developers. So it's really about getting insights from developers, working with them together, doing hackathons, invite them to see where their problems are, what ideas they have. And this is a good one because we're collaborating, all of us, that we then share these informations with each other. So we're seeing, oh, there's a new API coming to Kamau, and we're knowing, okay, there's a use case behind it. And then we can bother our developers or our customers. So it's really like exchange with developers and then collaborate together on the feedback.
Yeah, thank you. And so we will see all of you or at the MWC, Mobile World Congress. If you have free invite for APIDays developers, tell us. But glad to see that all of you are partnering, and this conference is together the humans behind APIs. So I think we have them there. So please a warm applause for our panelists. Thank you.